Okay, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Life Redefined podcast and our second episode of 2023. This one I feel like is actually in perfect timing of really as we step into new roles, new habits, new goals, new intentions, exciting new things, we can typically get overwhelmed. And something that I really wanted to talk on is decision fatigue. So, this is something that I was really working through a lot as I navigated like new habits last year and setting new routines for myself and navigating like different challenges and certain things. And I felt like I was getting really overwhelmed with making a lot of decisions. And so I wanted to keep this episode really short and like keep it to the point, short and sweet, and just really talk on decision fatigue and what it is and how you can walk away from this episode taking action to support yourself today, right now, and really reduce that overwhelm with decisions. So, essentially, decision fatigue is when we end up having, we wake up, if we don't necessarily plan or organize certain things, in the moment, we are needing to make a lot of decisions that can be very small in the day, like what am I going to wear today, what breakfast should I have, oh, like I forgot to fill up my water bottle. Like these are little things, but those really do add up. And then you go to work and you have to go and use your brain for your job, as we all do. And even in our jobs too, right? Like there's small tasks, there's big tasks, there's overwhelming tasks. There's a lot of things that we have to make decisions on. Like we can be making hundreds of decisions in a day. And the more we allow things to happen like in the moment, it puts so much on our brains and it creates a lot of tension, and we have like we can have a lot of cognitive overload. And typically when that happens is if you don't really make a decision necessarily, and then that kind of stacks, and then you have to make another decision and another and another and another, and it tends to pile up and it feels heavy. And then you get home at the end of the day and you're just like zonked out. You're just like, I am not in the mood to make any more decisions. But you had technically planned to like go do your workout at that time. And so by the time you've come home, you've really been, throwing so many decisions on yourself. A lot of the time it is unconscious too. Like we're not really realizing that we're doing this. And so you come home and by the time you're making the decision to go work out, you're like, yeah, this now your ability to manage that stress or that overwhelm, your ability to navigate those things has decreased in these moments because you feel exhausted. You feel so you could really create that burnout feeling of just like, I have been making all these decisions in the day. Like, I can't even think about anything right now. And that is really where we can have a lack of self-control in these moments. And that's because we have been filling our brain with so many decisions in the day, and we've been using our brain power all day. Like that is essentially like our willpower in the day. And a lot of the times, like most of us really just hope that we'll have the willpower and motivation to make like the right decisions like each day. And so, I wanted to bring this up because rather than hoping that like, I'll make the right decisions each day, I've honestly found it much more successful by reducing this decision fatigue by simply planning out things in advance. And I'm sure you've heard this, strategy before, but it's honestly not only just scheduling things or planning things, but automating things. And this, I think, honestly, has been such a game changer for me. So not only have I like planned and prepped or like made a to-do list beforehand, like I feel like that's kind of like a tip that we can easily hear everywhere. But not only that, I have actually planned and organized certain apps, certain reminders, certain things to already be set up so that I don't even need to think about it or even make decisions about certain things. And what I mean by that is like automating your systems. So a system can really be anything that you utilize for capturing your thoughts. So a system could be your journal, or when you think about capturing system, could, a grocery list. I literally have on my fridge one of those like, you're all out of, and it's like one of those like rip pads of just a checklist of all the grocery lists. Like that is a capturing system of like what for I don't even need to think about like what things do I need. It's literally a list that's pre-made that I literally look and just check off like, oh yeah, I am out of eggs. Like that immediately has taken out the guesswork. And for me to have to go out of my way to make more decisions, it's making my life a lot easier. So that's a system that I have in place that I'm able to capture things a lot quicker and streamline it. So I wanted to share this because when I realized that I was putting so much pressure on myself to make sure I was making all of the decisions like when things happened, that honestly just like it put so much pressure on myself to like quote unquote know how to make the right decision in that moment and like just throw it on current me or even future me to be like, oh, like I'll deal with that when it comes. But we never know what our circumstances are going to be in those moments. So why not set ourselves up for success? And yes, that could be writing your to-do list the night before so that at least you've captured essentially you've brain dumped and captured your thoughts and the tasks and the items that you plan to do the next day so that you're not worrying about it or stressing that you might have forgotten something. So that is an easy way to do that. But when I say automate, like for me, I realized when I was wanting to start going to Orange Theory fitness classes, I was in that process. I realized before going to those classes, I had so much workout resistance. So, one, notice like where you have a lot of resistance with a specific task, habit, routine, and allow yourself to be like, how can I make this more automated and simple? And if you guys have been around here and you've been on my Instagram, like, my values and my goals of this year is creating a lot more simplicity in my life. And this does tie into, decision making. I don't want to throw so many things on my own plate and have to make all these decisions when I can just simplify so many aspects of my life to essentially just reduce the amount of decisions I have to make in a day so I don't feel that overwhelm or I don't need to manage certain things that could be stressful in the moment when I already have ways to operate through it. So in that moment, I would say, so yeah, going back to my workout example, before Orange Theory, I didn't realize how many decisions I had to make to go work out. And, I've said this before too, like the story I was telling myself a lot of the time was like, it's so hard. There's a lot of things I have to plan. It just seems overwhelming. And that was the main story that was derailing me from taking any action of like going and doing the workouts. And there were so many layers to that and so many little excuses that always came up. But now looking back, like I thought back then, so like all of last year, I was using YouTube videos to work out. I was going on my condo treadmill. And I didn't wanna, like, have to think about, like, what my workouts were, so I did try a lot of different strategies, and it did work, for a little bit, but it wasn't, like, successful long term, where I created lists on YouTube of, like, my favorite videos, and I was like, "Oh, this is great." It allows me to, like, reduce my response effort in the morning, like, I'll wake up and I've got the list, and I can just pick whatever I want, but when I realized, like, still at the end of the day, like, when I woke up, I still had to make the decision of picking a video, and I still got distracted in that process. So, like, there was always so many times where I was like, "I don't even know what I feel like doing today," and then I would be scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, like, through my YouTube on my TV of just, like, looking at all the workouts I had put in there, and sometimes, like, I don't even wanna have to like, sit there and be like, what do I feel like doing today? And when we put that on ourselves in the moment, we can get so distracted, we can overconsume, we can, like, doubt our own decision making in that moment, and all of that can just derail us into simply inaction altogether. So a lot of the time when I had workout resistance, I was like, well, now I don't want to go on YouTube and have to try to find all of, a video. Even though I made a workout playlist of all of my favorite videos, I was like, they all of these videos still range from so many different things, from like dance cardio to like an ab workout to like a 30-minute hit class. Like, there were so many different things that were just so vastly different that I was like, I don't even know what I feel like doing today. So even though I set myself up for success in certain ways, I realized it wasn't working for me anymore. And when I, finally ended up going to Orange Theory, the one thing as I processed that was I had to make no decisions. The only decision I had to make was committing to saying yes to a class. So it was like, okay, Sonia, for me to set myself up for success, I'm going to open the app and I am going to book the 3 classes that I'm gonna do this week, so that, 1, it keeps me accountable and that I'm, like, setting it in my schedule. And what was awesome too is when you booked it in the app, it automatically put it in my calendar. Didn't even need to do that. So, like, that additional step was taken out. And then whenever I went to those classes, I didn't even need to think about the movements or, like, what steps I was needing to do. It was like, I just was so blown away by the fact that I was like, I was putting so many decisions on myself when it came to workouts before. Like, I'd show up to this class, it'd be like the rower, the treadmill, and then strength training with like weights on the floor. And you rotate between them with the instructor being there, sharing every single step of the way, showing all the movements. And I'm also a visual learner, and they have a TV with all of the visuals of like each movement. And it's like, it was like clockwork. And honestly, I never thought that I would really be doing like full 60-minute classes. Like, when I was doing my YouTube workouts at home, I was believing that like, oh, I could do maybe 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20. And I was completely like lowering myself in these moments because I was like, oh, that seems like a lot. And I was creating so much more doubt and like overthinking my decisions in those moments and creating just so much more turmoil. And so I just wanted to share this because, one, I ended up automating my like workouts where I was like, one, I joined a place that had like very like simple 60-minute classes. I don't know what the exercises are each class. Like, they change, but it's like a 60-minute class. You utilize basically the same equipment, but it's always like different form and things like that. But I don't even need to think about that. I don't even care about that. It's like I go and someone tells me what to do, and I'm like, great, perfect. The entire workout is automated. And all I have to do is literally go into the app and check, I am going to go at this time. And then that was the other part, is like the physical going of it. I was like, well, I've booked it. So I just, as long as I've got my bag by the door and it's already ready to go, I don't need to think twice. I just get out the door and that's it. And so this was something that has just like really shifted my mindset of, once I switched to this, like, I tried something new. And I think that's something we miss a lot as well, is like we're always making like the same decisions like each week or each day, and we still feel a lot of burnout or like a lot of overwhelm when we are doing it, but we don't realize like we can choose to switch it up. We can change our systems. Like, if my capturing system for all of my brain dumping was journaling, but I wasn't really feeling it anymore, and I'd much prefer like a voice memo to myself and like listen to it while I get ready in the morning the next day, like, and that feels way better for me than like, I can switch my systems. And that allows me to get it out of my brain before I'm actually in the moment, and makes it a lot more simple and straightforward to check that box before I'm in a moment where I'm like, could potentially have excuses, overwhelm, additional stress. And, that goes with meal prepping. And when I thought about like making meals and stuff, I was like, oh my God, like I like, what veggies do I put in a salad? What kinds of things do I have to like make? And it like recipes and stuff felt overwhelming for me. So I bought salad kits. A salad kit literally has all the ingredients in it. All I have to do is open the bag, pour it all in a bowl, and eat it. It completely removed so many decisions about like what types of veggies and stuff should I be putting in a salad, and like researching what salads I like obviously depending on like where I'm at, like if you're feeling like super overwhelmed and a lot of decision fatigue, then go the simple and straightforward route. Simplify and then simplify again, and then probably simplify even more so that you can get your brain behind the ability to take the action and do it consistently for your brain to get into the habit. That's the whole key here, is making your life easier so that future you don't discredit what future you can be able to do. Like a lot of the time I would just avoid in the moment and be like, I'll deal with it later, or oh, I can manage that when it happens. But then I'm totally throwing all of this stress and additional work onto my future self. And then when the time comes, I avoid it altogether and I don't take the action. And it's like, well, shit, you know? So one, I said this was a short and sweet episode. It's not that short, but definitely sweet, is decision fatigue. If you are noticing that you have like you don't even want to think about making another decision, really just pause and notice where your energy is getting drained. What areas in your life are you wanting to simplify based on the amount of like overwhelming decisions you feel like you have to make? Think about the systems that you can create for yourself, and if there's any way to automate that system. So even if it is like setting a reminder in your phone to check your bank account or to fill in and book your workout classes, like having certain systems and adding that into your routine to be like, okay, I'm going to do this one thing now and get it out now and organize myself. And when you automate certain things, like this is a simple example, is like you automate your like finances of like you pay off bills and you set up an automatic payment in your bank account, right? Like think of your life in that way too, not just your bank account, but in all other areas of your life. How can you create automation so that you don't need to add this additional weight of way more decisions than you need to be making? Bottom line, how the heck can you simplify your life? How can you create this moment to be like, I am going to sit here and realize like I have a lot of workout resistance. Okay, that probably means I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself to make a lot of decisions about like, what should I wear? What workout should it be? When should I do it? Like all of these things could potentially sound small, but they are a massive weight that we don't realize we're carrying. And I'm here to tell you, you don't have to carry it. You can take pieces off bit by bit by capturing these systems, automating areas that you can, and figuring out what works for you. Experiment. You might try a system this week and it works for the next month, and then you're like not really feeling it. That's okay. Like I chose to experiment all last year of like certain routines, morning and night routines, certain workouts, and like how to set myself up for success, what worked for me, what didn't. I realized that I'm such a visual learner, so I love having like visual like objects and items like actually in front of me, and that was way more beneficial than like writing things down. So allow yourself to experiment what can work for you. And I would also love to hear if there's any specific systems that you've used in the past or something that is like working so well for you. I would love to hear those examples. Like send me a DM on Instagram. I would love to hear it. Or if you have some type of really fun way to like automate something like a habit in your life, I would love to hear what you are coming up with and cheer you on. So that is what I have for you today. And really just pause and notice like what areas in your life are you feeling a lot of resistance with? And really just pause and see like, am I needing to make a lot of decisions? AKA, are there a lot of steps that I have to go through just to complete this thing? And if there is, how can I either automate, remove even some steps that aren't necessarily necessary, or even delegate some? Like ask your partner to like, be a part of it too. Like there's so many ways that we can support ourselves in reducing our decisions and reducing overall the overwhelm that can come with that. And let me tell you, when I realized like I don't need to think twice about making certain decisions, especially when it comes to workouts, like it absolutely changed my ability to go take the action with it. And I'm feeling so much better with it. And it's been so amazing. So let me know if this was helpful. If you have any other tips, thoughts, questions about it, hit me up on Instagram at soniajmac.coaching, and I will chat with you guys next week.